Ray Murray, and thank you for joining us for our feature presentation here. We see some people coming in. I'll give them a chance to sit down, so I'll filibuster for a little bit. No, we're really happy today to have be partnering with Women in Propane. Really, how long ago, Nancy, was it? Several months ago. We were talking about
last September.
Last September, we were talking about our open house, and Nancy says, you know, it's probably an event I should come to. I said, you know what, it would be great. In fact, and I don't know how it came up, but we said, why don't you speak? You actually spoke. I saw Nancy speak at the New York Propane Gas Association meeting. I said it'd be great if you could come speak at our open house. And she says, well, I don't know about that, but certainly Women in Propane would love to be involved. And they do have a training session later this afternoon at 1:30 for customer service that I would encourage you to attend. And they've got a booth outside, but we're tickled to have Women in Propane here to be with us today. And Nancy said, I got the most wonderful speaker. She said, you're going to love her. And that brings Jill Hopkins. So Jill Hopkins is from California. She's the current chair of the Women in Propane Council. And she is the CFO of Sheldon Gas. So she's a propane marketer from California. She lives in Vacayville, California, so that sounds like a nice place. And she lives with her husband and Yellow Lab, and she has a granddaughter, Mackenzie, that she loves to swim and play baseball with. And she's going to go into her background in more detail than I could. But please, let's give Jill a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike, and thank you all for attending this morning. It's my privilege to be before you today. As Mike said, my name is Jill Hopkins, and I'm lucky enough to be here today because I'm lucky enough to chair the National Propane Gas Association Women in Propane Business Council. It's a mouthful. It's a big title for a big organization. We're about 3 years old. We have over 500 members, and we're really proud to be doing professional development for all of the industry and welcoming women, bringing them to the forefront, diversifying boards, and making more money in this industry. I traveled from California, and I'm thrilled to be in Lee. I've never been in Massachusetts before. I'm a sixth-generation native-born Californian. So I feel like I'm in a different world, not just a different state. And that's a good thing. I'm especially thankful to Ray Murray Incorporated for inviting me here and making this day possible for me and also for you. Today I'm going to challenge you to change your lives, to see the world differently. More importantly, I'm going to challenge you to see yourself differently. More effective, more purposeful, and more powerful. And I have about 60 minutes to do it in, so I'm going to get started. My first step is to ask you to envision the best day of your life. My guess is that you thought of your wedding day, or the date of the birth of your child, the day you graduated from college, or the day you landed the job of your dreams in the propane industry. But I bet all of you thought of a day that is in your past as your best. Because mostly we think of the good old days with nostalgia and warmth. These thoughts are your memories. They are not your best. We love them, we reorganize them, we often edit them, we cherish them, as well we should, as memories. But if we think of them as our best, they hold us back and give us excuses for not expecting better, for not achieving extraordinary results in our lives, personal and professional. I'm not asking you to forget your wonderful memories. I'm just asking you to use them as springboards for creating a better life, an extraordinary life. There are hundreds of books written and published every year on the topic of how we can enrich our business, our family life, our emotional intelligence, our golf game. And I've read far too many of them. You'll recognize some of the authors' names. Peter Drucker, Tom Peters, Malcolm Gladwell, Dr. Phil, and on and on. I say I have read far too many of them because they offer pretty labor-intensive, extensive overhauls of our whole lives, our whole businesses. They want us to change our families, our teenagers. They want us to change planet Earth. It's too much work. And it requires too much cooperation from things beyond our control. What I'm going to talk about today are things that are in your direct control and things that are immediately applicable. Reading the book sapped my energy, and mostly I just went back to my old ways. Show up, stick it out, check out, repeat. Today is how you break out of that pattern, just in case it sounds at all familiar to you. Now more than ever, our industry needs each of us to be at our best. The last few winters have provided us all with significant challenges that must be met if we are to advance our industry, our businesses, our individual careers. The obstacles are real and sometimes immutable. Some are of our own creation and often stem from our insistence to do things the way they have always been done. As Mike mentioned, I work at Sheldon Gas Company. It's my family business. I am a member of the third generation of family ownership of Sheldon Gas. My grandfather started the business in the 20s, actually. And believe you me, I know a lot about the power of the way we have always done things. I work with a sister, 2 brothers, a husband, a niece, a brother-in-law, a son, and a daughter. Of course, my son and daughter and niece form the 4th generation. Challenging enough. One of these people loves the good old ways. She clings to them. I don't. Not when they stop Sheldon from providing innovative ways, more effective ways to address our customers' needs, responding to our industry, the things that Tucker just presented. When we can enhance our entire business by letting go and trying something new, I say let's do it. I hear what we've done is good enough. And I'm going to ask you to remember that good enough is poison to the best. If you're happy with good enough, it's going to get in your way to being extraordinary. So if some of you are thinking, oh yeah, sure, I like it the way it is. It is the best. It's been proven over the last fill in the blank, 15, 20, 25, 30, on up years. All I'm asking you to do is just suspend that belief for the next hour or so while we move off that place to a place of opportunity and innovation. Today, in 3 easy steps, we're going to change our worlds and begin to redefine our perception of what is possible. I'm not going to pretend that we'll answer the big questions. What is the meaning of life? How can I find forever happiness? How can we prevent another 2013-14 winter from occurring? There are experts with far more expertise than I dealing with those questions. But we are going to explore some guidelines to how we can deal with whatever surprises and challenges are coming this winter and beyond. These 3 techniques can be covered in 6 words. Ask questions, make choices, be better. First, I urge you to ask questions. I know you do this every day. How are you? Is that report finished? Did you enjoy your vacation? What's for lunch? And probably our most common question, did you finish your homework? These are not the kind of questions I'm talking about. The kind of questions I'm urging you to ask starting today is what Warren Berger calls a more beautiful question in his book of that same title. Berger initiates a whole system of exploration into what the heck is going on with one simple, meaningful, beautiful question. Why? We can use the topic of last winter to practice applying the why technique. Why did the industry suffer from one of its most dramatic and troublesome, some would say catastrophic, winters in decades? Why was the industry unprepared to respond to the polar vortex of last winter? Roy Willis, president of the Propane Education and Research Council, acknowledges that as an industry, we were sort of caught off guard following a decade of abnormally warm winters. The important question, why were we caught off guard? Because it is that question that may lead us to thinking about our season and to prepare for it differently so that we won't be caught in the same bind again. The industry experts, for example, Roy Willis and Rick Roldan, president and CEO of the MPGA, have answered the first layer of whys. In fact, they've done so in congressional hearings and in numerous trade publications. Their answers are factual and historical. We lost a major pipeline as a source of supply to the upper Midwest. It wasn't available to the industry this year. 2, the expansion of the export market significantly reduced the historical and typical summer buildup of inventory. 3rd, the corn drying season was intense and condensed. According to Drew Combs, Vice President for Propane at CHS Incorporated, 25% of the nation's corn was harvested in 1 week last year. 4th, that corn was wetter than normal and required more heat for a longer time to dry. And 5th, almost immediately after the corn drying season depleted available inventories, the extreme cold weather started and lasted for months. That is why we suffered through what we usually wish for: long cold winters and wet crops. So it feels like we have answers. But if we stop our questioning at this level, we miss the big question and the big opportunity to make real advancement in our industry, to move out of a place that may result in our getting caught off guard again, maybe for different reasons, but that's not something any of us want to repeat. In this example, the questions I suggest are, why was the pipeline reconfigured? How can that infrastructure be replaced or improved upon? Why did the export market so significantly expand that it created problems at home last year? Why was the corn drying season so different from previous seasons? And why was the corn wetter? Here we can look to our partners in this project, the farmers, and ask them to help us teach us about better serving them. Why was it so cold, so long? Why this year? I don't have the answers to these questions, but I would like you to consider the importance of asking them. I'm also going to acknowledge how uncomfortable not knowing the answers makes me, and how that discomfort is the path to discovering better ways to doing things, all things. The most exciting and the most excruciating component of the Ask Why technique is that it usually uncovers more questions, more unknowns, more mysteries. That is by design. Asking why 5 times gets us to a new level of understanding and information, exactly where we need to travel to discover new answers, new methodologies, both elements of better lives. Another key concept at the core of beautiful questioning technique is a refusal to accept existing reality. I am sure everyone here has at one point in their life received the same answer in response to a deep, meaningful question, because that is the way it is. It's likely we ourselves have answered a question with that answer. Of course we have. Accepting existing reality as fixed and fateful provides us with a mental shorthand to get through our day. It reduces our mental overload so that we can get everything done that we have to get done. But as the complexity of our work and our world increases and accelerates, we must ask the harder, more beautiful questions. And you can start today. For the managers and the owners in the room, I urge you to ask the question, why are we in business? And by the way, what business are we really in? As a marketer, we like to say we're in the heating business. A very large percentage of our customers are residential. We heat their homes. If we let it go at that, we miss the opportunity to ask why. Why do we heat their homes? Because we're more efficient, because we offer better products, and so on and so on. If we continue that process down 5 whys, we can get to the business that we're really in. And that will lead us to the business of, we're in the comfort business. People are comfortable with heat. People like hot water, and that can lead us to a more succinct and effective marketing message. For the sales folks in the group, I urge you to ask your customer, what do you want? We often, as salespeople, we often start with what we got and figure out a way to make the customer think they need what we got. If we reverse that and start with, what do you want? What do you need? Hey, I don't have that, but I have this. Will this work for you? For all of us, why do I care? I'll offer you an answer for why do I care. Developing the skill of questioning provides a vehicle for getting out of the rut we create in our lives by multitasking and repetitive motion. Questioning is the equivalent of mental aerobics. It requires commitment, persistence, determination, and a sound method for dealing with frustration. To quote Warren Berger, questions produce the light bulb effect. How many of you have children or grandchildren? If they're old enough to talk, you know all about this quest for knowledge, this questioning route to a more extraordinary life. According to Paul Harris, a Harvard child psychologist and author, research shows that between the ages of 2 and 5, a child asks around 40,000 questions. I happen to live in the happy presence of a 4-year-old. The number seems low to me. But the process the child uses as he or she discovers the world is the same one we need to renew our faith in. First of all, step 1 is knowing we don't know. So many of us walk through life not observing the changes that are going on through life. We use old, worn out information that doesn't work anymore. Step 2, recognizing that there are potentially several answers. My husband came home the other day, and the man who was supposed to mow our lawns trimmed our beautiful Japanese maple trees. Like this. You know, they were all like this. He went like berserk. Rah, rah, rah. Why would he ruin my yard? Why would he do that? Da, da, da. And I suggested to him that he probably thought one of the possible answers to that question was he probably thought he was doing a good job, a little extra something for us. There are multiple answers to almost every question that we ask. Step 3, asking someone who might have an answer. I called the guy, and asked, what were you thinking? A topic for another day. As adults, I urge you to add 2 more questions to this process. Step 4, listening, really listening to the answers. And step 5, caring about the answers. So often our questions are used as ways to show off our own knowledge, or to hurt our customer or our employee or our student or even our child to our old information. Sometimes we don't even hear an answer because really what we're doing is just waiting for our chance to talk again, to say what we plan to say before we ever ask the question in the first place. And lastly, I'd ask you not to be afraid to ask yourself the right now questions. Am I engaged? Did I overlook the obvious? What have I learned today? If beginning right now, this minute, you become more attuned to what you don't know and what you need to know, you won't waste any more time asking the questions for which you already have the answers. This will free you to ask the important questions, the ones that will evoke the information, or more likely, even deeper, better questions that will change your outlook and your life. To help you get started, here are a few examples from the hundreds that Berger offers in his book. Because we're all here in some relationship to our work, I chose questions about career. He talks about a career mountain. What does yours look like? A butte? An alp? A bunny slope? A plateau? Or maybe not a mountain at all. If you're in your career valley, you need to start asking some other and different kinds of questions. Why are you climbing the mountain? Are you climbing the mountain? What's waiting for you at the top? What are you going to do once you get there? In many ways, the most important question, are you enjoying the climb? Now this question breaks the rule because it's a yes-no question. So this time let's try with those 5 whys. Are you enjoying the climb? Why? And if you have your answer, why is that the answer? What is good about it? Why is that? And so on. You see the technique in just this brief exercise of not doing what we used to get told to do when we were in the back seat of the station wagon on a road trip. Just let it go. Don't. It's where the good stuff lives. Should you speed up or should you slow down? What are you leaving behind down below? And if you have these answered, can you add the one that may move you to action? What if you made one small change in your work habits, in your work thinking, in your work attitude? What would happen if before we lean in, we step back? Each of these questions can be subjected to the 5 why question test. If you practice, you'll discover the beauty in the questions we've been trying to identify, or in many, many cases in our lives, trying to avoid. They're a lot of work. The results are worth it. Step 2, make choices. Choose your job, choose your spouse, choose your workout, choose your food, choose your companions, choose your fun. Every single day. How many of you have done that today already? Of course you have. You've chosen to get up, leave your home or hotel room, to be here at the open house. You might be thinking, no, I was told I was coming here. I was assigned, it was not a choice. Yes, it was. You could have called in sick. You could have gone AWOL. You could have quit. You could have made other plans. You chose to be here. So be here. Each of us probably has a little bit different definition of choice. The American Heritage College Dictionary definition includes words like option, preference, election, and alternative. The most critical element of each of these words is the underlying principle of freedom, power, liberty, and use of judgment. Now that's what I'm talking about. We started our conversation today with remembering some of the best moments of our lives, and to a certain degree identifying what made them so sweet and precious to us. Now let's reverse that. Take a moment and think about the worst day of your life. Did you choose anything about it? In other words, what role did you play in making it so bad that it stands out among all of your experiences? I'm suggesting to you that in varying degrees, making flawed choices or allowing someone else to make choices for you resulted in your worst. If we fail to identify our power and responsibility in making it bad, we surrender to the outside forces. Those circumstances allegedly beyond our control. So what's the lesson? How can you take back your power of choice and use it to your most beneficial effect? First, take that step back and identify what you do out of habit, without thought or intention. For instance, let's start with your breakfast. I eat the same thing every morning. Every single morning. It's not available to me for whatever reason. I get grumpy and out of sorts. When I'm traveling or a house guest, my standard whole wheat toast, 2 pieces of fruit, and coffee with skim milk may be too hard to come by. So I replicate the pattern as closely as possible. Now I know this makes me sound like a fussy old lady. But the fact of the matter is, I choose to eat that same thing every day. I like it. I look forward to it. In the words of Goldilocks, it is just right. In a very simple, basic way, it brings me joy. The source of that joy is choice. If someone told me I had to eat that same thing every day, I would hate the very same menu. As it stands right now, I could have cereal or Eggs Benedict or a piece of pizza if I chose to. Those options make my choice an expression of freedom. The same applies to the big and important choices in our lives. Where we live, who we marry or not, what jobs we get and keep. Even if we don't always see or acknowledge our power to choose. The moment we do, we create excitement, enthusiasm, and passion. Another example. A number of years ago, my doctor had a very serious and frightening talk with me about cholesterol. Mine. I come from a long line of red meat-eating, egg and butter-loving farmers. And though I had lived for a long time on my own, I had never really thought about my food choices. But that doctor made me think. She scared me with all manner of future horror and told me I had to exercise more and blah, blah, blah. Off to the gym I went. I had to. I hated every minute. I walked miles on the stupid treadmill, all with this big sourpuss look on my face. In 6 months, as ordered, I returned to the doctor. My numbers had dropped. The plan had worked. Kind of. Because I immediately stopped doing what I had been ordered to do. Several months later, my local gym added water aerobics to their class offerings. I loved the water and tried it. I chose it. I made good friends in class, and they encouraged me to try cycling class. I chose it. I loved it. And then came the kickboxing, the yoga, the Zumba. Loved them all. I chose them. Now the gym is one of my favorite places to be. I choose to be there often and regularly. And as an added bonus, my doctor loves my cholesterol numbers. There are a couple principles underlying this story of choice. Number one, the best exercise plan, or any plan, is the one that you will continue to do. And two, and more importantly, human beings like to be in charge of themselves. I can tell you that's certainly true of a 4-year-old. I can tell you it's certainly true of a year-old. This story also demonstrates the most critical component of making choices. When you choose, do so with commitment. Choose consciously and wholeheartedly, and reaffirm your choice with gusto and determination every darn day. My bio includes a mention of my first career as an English teacher. I studied and trained for my chosen profession for several years. I worked in some pretty tough schools and some rough situations in order to honor my choice. And I loved my job for 20 years or so. But a family crisis led me to a choice to leave teaching. My sister, who was working at Sheldon Gas, our family propane business, a business I had made a passionate and wholehearted choice to avoid, had a critically ill child and was called away. I stepped in to hold her place. It was a 6-month agreement. I chose to help her temporarily. That was 18 years ago. During which time I discovered my passion for this industry and the people in it. And so I chose again, wholeheartedly and consciously. The point here is that I had a bias. I had a bias against business, especially a business that looked, from my slanted perspective, to be dominated by trucks and men. Once I chose to change that perspective and to become exposed and educated about the propane business and all the people in the industry, men and women, I discovered a whole new world. A world I choose every day, in every way, with passion and commitment. This example exposes one of the critical components of making choices. In the words of Chip Heath and Dan Heath in their book, Indecisive, we have to tackle the thorny problem of how to overcome our biases and irrational thinking to make better decisions about our work, our lives, our companies, and our careers. Thorny problem indeed. In retrospect, my bias against business, especially the family business, was based on what I thought I knew about it. However, as I immersed myself in the actuality of the business, I found an entirely different environment than the one I had created with partial, faulty information. I further discovered that I love trucks. And while the propane business world was very different from that of education, many of the skills I had honed, to which made me passionate about teaching, were transferable to making Sheldon Gas more successful. Identifying natural or learned biases is a key step to our making choices that we can embrace. And the way we do that is by asking ourselves, why? Why do I think what I think? And the reasons I form this opinion, are the reasons I form this opinion still in play? How long have I held this belief? Is it valid in my life right now? Why? Discovering why we think what we think is how we identify our biases. But, as the he say, being aware of a bias doesn't correct it, just as knowing that you're nearsighted doesn't help you to see better. Happily, we have a method for identifying our illogical or outdated biases, for clarifying our own goals, and implementing ways to achieve them. We know about the beautiful questions. And hopefully we have the courage to ask them of ourselves. And it does take courage. Because if we are honest and ask ourselves the difficult questions on a continuous basis, we have to also have a willingness to change our minds, to refine and redefine our opinions and our ideas. If we refuse to be second best, we have to decide to be the best, over and over, with all the glory and responsibility that that decision entails. So here we are. I submit to you that if you choose your job every day, you will get better at it. If you choose your spouse every day, your marriage will improve. If you choose your companions, your friendships will grow deeper and richer. If you choose your fun, your life will be more rewarding. And if you don't, you risk going through each day on autopilot, by rote, without the enthusiasm and energy that is available to you. In short, get excited or choose something else. When we recognize that we have choices in pretty much everything, every day we can begin to exercise all that freedom and power that will move us beyond ordinary. Third, I ask you to be better. Right now. Again, I will confess the difficulty of this for me. I am a natural planner. My idea of a good time is to sit down with a 3-year calendar. If I start a project, I like to have all my research complete, my outline thoroughly detailed, my conclusion defined. This is not really a good way to get anything done. What it is a really good way not to get started. My analysis becomes paralysis. I spend so much time and energy refining my plan, my project suffers because it doesn't get started. What I'm telling you is the most important step in moving from where you are to where you want to be is taking the first step. Of course, there's some preliminary work to be done in identifying your goals, making your choices, clarifying them with some beautiful questioning. But once you decide, start. Don't waste time drawing up a 100-step plan. because new insights and ideas may emerge at step 8 or step 18. New ideas and insights that govern your success. And if you don't get started, you're not going to get to step 8. You're certainly not going to get to step 18. In today's dynamic environment, that's just another way of saying stuff happens. If we have invested all of our best resources on the plan, we often create blinders to the signs that we need to revise, edit, refine, or even throw out the perfect plan. I think we all had a plan for last winter. And I certainly hope we have one for next winter. But we have to be sensitive to the changing factors and be willing to change the plan in response to that environment. That's really hard to do if we've put everything we have into forming the plan. I learned this shocking and disturbing lesson from an expert. Like most English teachers and ardent readers, I wanted to be a writer. So I read about writing, I thought about writing, I went to readings by writers, I went to workshops about writing, until I went to my last workshop on writing. Because in the last one, the professional writer told us wannabes that to be a writer, we had to write. We had to stop planning on writing, we had to stop clearing the desk, we had to stop outlining and researching, and developing ideas. In the old days, those 100 pencils we had to have sharpened, we don't need them. We have to take the scary leap. We have to write. The night I got that message, I was devastated. I'd been pouring all my energy into preparing to be the best writer I could possibly be. All those hours reading those books, attending those workshops, sharpening those pencils, color coding my idea folders. All those hours were now outed. Those hours could no longer be called preparation. They were rightfully named not writing. And that was frightening, because starting anything entails a willingness to fail. But it is also the only possible way we might succeed. What is critical is that we differentiate in our lives the paralysis and hesitation caused by anxiety and the power and inspiration of that fear. We all know the difference. If we don't start, we're anxious. If we ride the ski lift to the top of the mountain and walk down, we're anxious. If we climb the high dive and take the ladder down, that's anxiety. If we miss out on chances to be better because we are too busy planning on being perfect, we suffer from anxiety. On the other hand, fear is a natural human response to the unknown. And fear has motivated some of the most remarkable human accomplishments in history. Do you think Walter Snelling, the father of liquefied petroleum gas, was a little afraid? Dr. Snelling, a noted explosives expert, had already perfected an underwater detonator that was used in constructing the Panama Canal. In 1910, he discovered that propane and butane could be used as an alternative fuel for lighting homes, vehicles, and farm equipment. As a scientist, he was trained to evaluate the results of his experiments, the successes and the failures. As we can all be thankful that he was not daunted by the huge job of beginning his project, of assessing the results, and by expanding his ideas in response to both his successes and failures. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps provides us another example. Michael Phelps embodies the principle of being better, in this case, on his way to being the best, and back again. At the 2012 Olympics, Michael Phelps was deemed the world's greatest swimmer, and to some people, the best Olympian athlete ever. At the conclusion of the 2012 competition, with the addition of 4 gold medals and 6 silvers, his Olympic total reached 22 medals, 18 of them gold. But Michael Phelps started his career as a swimmer as a scared 7-year-old, standing on the side of the pool, watching his sisters swim up and down. He was afraid to put his face in the water, so he learned the backstroke first. With luck and a good coach and a determination to be better, an extraordinary career was begun. And then, after several years of training, competing, winning, being the best, Michael Phelps retired in the year 2012. He claimed he just wanted to see something other than the bottom of the pool. Who hasn't had that feeling? He then devoted himself, he had devoted himself to being the best swimmer, and now he wanted to try something else. Something was missing in his life. So he tried a bunch of different things. He started a foundation, he played a ton of golf, I think he partied a little. He took a break from the training that had brought him to the position of being the best, until he decided to come back to swimming and maybe be the best again. But his first step was to start being better. Because nobody, not even Michael Phelps, gets to wake up and decide, today I'm going to be the best. I am certain the greatest swimmer ever felt some fear. What if I can't do it? What if I embarrass myself? What if? Aren't these the same questions we ask ourselves every time we face a new challenge or think we might? I know I do. But the scarier questions took over. What if I don't try? What if I do nothing? And sometimes the scariest question of all, what if I do succeed? Another swimmer comes to mind. My granddaughter Mackenzie turned 4 recently. 2 days later, she started her swimming lessons. She's always loved the water, but having to wear her swimmies was really bogging her down. She wanted to learn to swim, like the big kids. Off we went to the pool. She didn't hesitate to try everything the instructor suggested without her swimmies. She jumped in the deep end. She put her head under the water. She floated on her back with only the water and her infinite faith in herself to hold her up. For 30 minutes, she was swimming like the big kids. I will never forget that first lesson. And I think of it often. It makes me wonder, when do we become afraid to try more, to test ourselves, to be better? When does the question, if I fail, how will I cope, become the dominant theme of our lives? The answer about when fear took over is really unimportant if this minute we determine that we stop asking ourselves, how will I cope, and start finding out. I urge you to make that moment right now. I will even remind you of an appropriate question that I'm sure many of you have seen on paperweights and refrigerator magnets. What would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? It seems I have spoken at some length about asking hard questions, making difficult choices, and taking agonizing chances at being better. Of course, all of us should be wondering, why bother? My personal answers to that question are simple and profound. To survive, to have purpose, to express my core values, to leave a legacy, to have fun, to sleep more and better, to smile more. Some of these will appeal to you, others will not. But for all of us, there is a universal reason to be better. There are right now people who believe in you. Your partner, your boss, your children, your parents, your golf buddies. You are in their lives for a purpose, theirs as well as your own. Find the people who believe in you. Seek them out and listen to their message. Become worthy of their faith in you and your success. Recognize your ability to do great things. Be better today than you were yesterday, even just a little bit. And don't wait for tomorrow to take action, because all you're doing is stalling and making excuses for yourself. Success usually comes in steps. A couple forward, one back, hopefully a couple more forward. Complications and frustrations are part of the package. If we learn and adapt as we meet those obstacles, we get better. If we give up, we get passed by and burned out. Your choice. The keys to being a little better every day are two simple questions. If not now, when? If not me, who? So let's get going. Let's do something right now. In the words of Seth Godin, let's stop trying to be perfect and start being remarkable. The applications of these three suggestions will change your outlook, which will change your life. And I give you warning, they will wear you out. Because they will reveal to you all the things that are possible in your life right now. They will expand your vision beyond the boundaries established by routine and rote. They will lead you to new ideas about your work, your life, and the people in it. If you're truly interested in moving your family, your company, our industry, and yourself from ordinary to extraordinary, begin to ask questions, make choices, and be better right now. Thank you again to our hosts for the best ever so far open house. I've already made some spectacular memories, which I have every intention of using to make myself better. And thank you all for joining me today. I sincerely appreciate the generosity of your time and your attention. Enjoy the rest of the day. Make it extraordinary.